Welcome back, everyone. Uh, Today, if you'll turn to page 56 in your Cover the Bible notes, I'm going to point out a few things here. And I think it's important for us to understand that there was a direct connection between the 10 plagues that the Lord caused upon Egypt. It was direct correlation to their worship practices. The Egyptians, they actually worshipped the Nile River. It was considered to be a source of life for the Egyptians. And they even would have practices when, after people would die, they would float their bodies down the Nile River. It was considered as an object of their worship. As one of the plagues, you remember, when God caused its waters to become as blood, and it became a putrid, blood-filled body of water. So even the frogs and the lice and the flies that became plagues, all of these were part of Egyptian worship. In fact, you can still find artifacts that there were gold images and jewelry that were made representing these various insects. And God caused this, challenged every one of the things that the Egyptians were worshiping and were looking towards for their life. So even up to the locusts that swarmed them, that was all part of the ancient Egyptian worship practices. And one of the most sacred objects of their worship was the bull. In fact, the second largest pagan temple in Egypt was centered around Apis, the black bull. And when God caused death to come upon all the cattle of the land, it created a terrible stench throughout the land. So with every one of the plagues, God confronted head on these things that the Egyptians were worshiping. Another actual object of worship that was thought to bring happiness and prosperity was gold. And during that plague, when the soot from the smelting of the gold, that dust covered all of the surface of the land, and when it came in contact with their skin, it caused boils on their skin. So everything, all of their cherished objects of worship, God confronted with the plagues. Then we finally come to a really significant object of pagan worship, and that was the sun. So God even blotted out the sun with darkness that covered the land. So God created this terrifying darkness that confronted their most sacred item that they worshipped in Egypt. And last of all, Pharaoh was not considered to be just a leader or a prime minister of Egypt, but he was actually considered to be a divine god and was to be worshipped by the people. And his firstborn son, from the moment of his birth, was also considered to be divine. So this is the reason that pharaohs at that time were embalmed and placed in pyramids. Now the final judgment of God was to destroy the firstborn son of Pharaoh, and along with him, all of the firstborn in the homes of Egypt. The worship of false gods may not seem to cause any problems for a period of time, but in the end, tragedy is always the result. Satan has a diabolical plan to destroy man by causing him to believe the lies and worship created things rather than the creator of all things. In the end, destruction is always the result. May God help us to learn from this passage that there can be no compromise between worshiping false gods and the one true God. Now here's your scripture portion for today, taken from Exodus chapter 9, beginning with verse 13. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Get up early in the morning, confront Pharaoh, and say to him, 'This is what the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, says. Let my people go so that they may worship me, or this time I will send the full force of my plagues against you and against your officials and your people, so you may know that there is no one like me in all the earth. For by now I could have stretched out my hand and struck you and your people with a plague that would have wiped you off the earth. But I have raised you up for this very purpose, that I might show you my power, that my name might be proclaimed in all the earth.'" God bless you, and we will see you tomorrow.